Hello everyone and welcome back to the video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the super major of the year potentially in SmashCon. You have 4,372 attendees. Now this, of course, all isn't going into Ultimate. You have over 2,000 people registered for Ultimate, so this event should be an absolute banger. For our top 16 seeds, you got Siski, Big D, DeBuzz, and Mutace in 13th, Zomba, Onin, Kurama, and Gact in 9th. In 7th, you're going to have Riddles and Shootone. 5th, Light and Tweak. 4th, Mia. 3rd, Sonics. 2nd, Aquila. And projected to win the entire thing is Spargo. The first player I want to take a look at is going to be Didi, who is one of the unsung heroes of our game just because he doesn't really go to many events. I think this is actually his first major event outside of Georgia, so that is pretty exciting. I'm hoping to see him do well, and honestly, I think he's got a pretty decent bracket. He's supposed to go up against Quandale Dinglingleton as his first opponent here, and honestly, I'd be very shocked if he lost that. Didi is not only amazing in the Ditto, but when he plays Pokemon Trainer versus Steve, he absolutely takes people apart, and I don't think that Quandale is going to be the exception. Now, you have Mia versus Didi. I actually think Pokemon Trainer does well enough versus Game Watch where I do consider this a winnable matchup, and I consider it a winnable matchup even more so because recently Didi has just beaten Ken and Shootone at a local event. Now again, it's a local event, and they are two very, very different players than Mia, but he can beat the caliber of Mia, and that's what's really important to me. We've kind of already known that in the past, but Japan, they do have a way different playstyle than you have in America, but clearly Didi is somewhat accustomed to being able to beat that, so I do have faith that he can get that upset over Mia. It's definitely not going to be easy, but to be fair, nothing is in current day Ultimate. Next up is going to be another player that we haven't seen at the top level for a while, and that is going to be Mars. Now, his bracket, I think, is pretty tough right at the start because he's got double Steves. Riku into Onin. And Zero's just a character that I actually think does pretty well versus Steve. Akla's even gone on record, I believe, to say the matchup is slightly winning for Zero Suit. Now, winning or not, just because it's a good matchup for Steve, you still have to know it. Steve is one of those characters that even if your character does win, that doesn't mean you're going to get an automatic free dub because he is still the best character in the game. And unfortunately, while a lot of people were grinding and learning the Steve matchup in tournament, Mars was making thousands, if not millions of dollars on content. So it's definitely probably the correct bag to go with, but I don't know if he's going to know the Steve matchup as well as he may need to beat players like Riku, to beat players especially like Onin. Again, Anathema could definitely upset Onin. I could see that happening, but we're just going to assume that it is the Devil Steve because I would believe in Mars to beat Anathema. So Mars's bracket is pretty much solely dependent on can he play against Steve, and if he can and he gets into the top 32, well, that's where it gets juicy. Next one I want to take a look at is going to be Esam. Now, his first matchup is going to be against Crafties, which is Sonic, and I would expect him to pull out there. I think he is actually pretty good versus Sonic. I think Pikachu just as well in general. Then you're going to have Esam versus Kronos. Now, I would actually expect Esam to take that set just considering he is impeccable at the Snake matchup, as well as Kronos likely not knowing the Pikachu matchup, at least as well as Esam is going to know that Snake matchup, especially the way that he was playing at CEO. If he is playing like that, then he could definitely make an upset over Kronos. After that, though, is where it gets pretty tough in the bracket. You're going to have him versus Kurama. He's always had a bit of a Mario problem. Not anything that he can't overcome, but it's just not something that's super favorable. And then he would go into Jackal. And the last time that they played, it was a Game 5 set, but it did go into Jackal's favor. Now, to be fair, that was a long time ago, so I do think that he can get the run back. And this really is all revolving around how Esam is playing. I was so genuinely impressed by his play at CEO. He looked 30 times better than he had been for pretty much every other tournament he had been to in the year. So if he's able to play like that in SmashCon, he can upset players like the caliber of Kurama, like Jackal, like Kronos. I don't think it's going to be easy, especially Kurama. That's definitely going to be his toughest matchup. But if he can get the ball rolling by upsetting Kronos, I think we can see some crazy things happen. And we have reached the top 32. Our first matchups for a top 8 qualifier are Spargo versus Mutace and Shootone versus Zomba. I also should say that Mutace has a chance of getting upset by Ken, and Zomba has a chance of getting upset by Ouch. I'd be pretty surprised if Shootone or Spargo got upset at any point in this bracket, but if Spargo is going to get upset this tournament, since he is the first seed, if he loses to anyone, it's technically an upset. It's going to happen right here because his first matchup is against Mutace. Not a super great draw. He did win their last encounter, but prior to that, it was a flawless record for Mutace. He's very good at the matchup. I honestly wouldn't be super shocked if Spargo started losing. He whipped out the Aegis, and that could bring him some success, but I would still favor Mutace here. Clearly, Spargo figured something out at Battle of BC. He had a game plan that worked well enough to be able to beat Mutace one time, but you're going to be able to do it a second time here, and I would think that Mutace takes that set. Then you have Shootone versus Zomba. Now, I would definitely go with Shootone here. I'd say it's 90% Shootone, 10% Zomba, and it's not because I think Shootone is way better than Zomba. It's because that matchup is god-awful, and Shootone is very good. Now, Zomba has been in the past. He beat him at Crown, but that's the 10%. It's not going to happen every single time. Could it happen this time? Yes, absolutely. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I am going to favor Shuton there. So then you're either going to get Shuton versus Mutace or Spargo. For our sake, we're going to say that it is Mutace, and I would heavily favor Shuton in that set, especially after their set at Smash Factory. He looked fairly dominant in that. But if it is Spargo versus Shuton, I also think that Shuton has the capability to upset Spargo because it's probably not going to be an Aegis Ditto, and if it is an Aegis Ditto, I would expect Shuton to win because I think his Aegis is a little bit better, at least right now. Spargos is getting a lot better very quickly. He could definitely reclaim that title of best Aegis very soon. But if it's Cloud Aegis, I think Shuton probably pulls through there. I think the matchup is in Shuton's favor. So I'm going to say that Shuton is the player that gets top 8 from this part of the bracket. And the next part of the bracket is, in my opinion, the most interesting part of the bracket because we got a whole lot of drama right around here. So I think DDE definitely has a chance to upset Mia, but you would still favor Mia to make it through. DeBuzz has a chance to lose to Chase, but considering that they've never played before offline, I would expect DeBuzz to take that. He's a really difficult player to beat on your first time playing him. And DeBuzz Mia, I am very, very confident that DeBuzz will win. You know, if you've watched this channel a lot, I rarely don't say things with my chest because this game is extremely fickle. Anything can happen. DeBuzz will beat Mia. I can guarantee you that. He has an amazing record versus Game Watch. Rosalina is a very difficult character to play against, especially if you don't know how to play against it, especially if you don't know how to play against DeBuzz's style of Rosalina. He has an amazing record versus Meister. He beat him the only time they played at Tokyo Smash Bootcamp. Now, to be fair, that was a for fun event. I think Mia even went hero in the second game, so that doesn't really matter, but I have full confidence that DeBuzz will take that set. And then you're going to have Light versus Onin likely. Now, the last time that Light and Onin played, it did go into Light's favor, but that was a long time ago. I believe it was at Scuff World Tour. I would still expect Light to take that set, but the part where this gets dramatic is if Mars beats Onin, we get Light versus Mars, which would be absolutely crazy. I'm not even going to talk about what would happen in the set because I don't know, but we just need to put it on the table that it's a possibility that we get Light Mars right here, which is insane. But let's say that Buzz makes it into winners quarterfinals, which he will because he will be beating Mia. He's probably going to be Light against it. Again, Onin could make it through, but I would expect Light to win that set. And Light has an amazing record versus the Buzz. Like, it's a really, really good record. So if both the Buzz and Light make it to this winner's quarters, I would heavily favor Light to get into top 8. Next up, we're going to have the Akala Big D and Riddles Kurama part of bracket. Now, for Riddles Kurama, I think there's a lot of variables here. I think Kurama could get upset by Kronos. He could get upset by Isham. He could get upset by Jackal. I would still favor him in all those matches, but I think they are all matchups that he could lose. You're going to have Riddles versus both Geist and Lima as well. And presumably, if he's able to beat Geist, he's able to show proficiency in the matchup. He should be able to beat Lima as well, but they're two different players of two different skill levels, so we're going to have to see how that actually pans out. But for the sake of simplicity, let's say that both Riddles and Kurama get through, and if that does happen, the only time they played in recent memory, it did go into Riddle's favor, so I do imagine that it happens again. Then you're going to have Akala Big D. Now, I don't want to freak anyone out. I don't want to sound any alarms. Cosmos is projected to fight Akala. It's likely going to be Korin versus Steve. I think Cosmos is going majority Inkling for this bracket, though, so if he is able to make it to Akala, I'm not saying there's a 100% chance that he's going to upset Akala. But I'm just saying, Cosmos is going to pop off at one of these events. It's going to happen soon, and I'd like to be on the right side of history. So I thought I should mention that. Also, shouts to Big D. He finally got a good bracket. His bracket at Akala was awful. He actually has a pretty good one here, and I do expect him to make it to Akala, but probably not any further in the winner's side of bracket because Steve Iceclowers is an abhorrent matchup, and even though he's been able to do it before, we saw in the run back what happened. It's just a very, very tricky one, and I would expect Akala to take it, as well as I would expect Akala to beat Riddles. I think Akala has an undefeated record versus Riddles, and while a lot of their sets have been close and competitive, Riddles has seemingly gotten closer and closer. He just hasn't been able to take it yet, so maybe this is the time, but I am going to be safe and go with Akala for this one. And our final top 8 qualifier through the winner's side is going to be between Sonics and Siski and Tweak and Gak. Now, I think this part of the bracket is going to go pretty much as seeded. I don't see any of these players getting upset. Siski maybe by Neo, Tweak maybe by MVD, but to be fair, he's gotten a lot better at the Snake matchup. And then Gak maybe by Apollo Kage, but also it's still a very favorable match for Gax because it is going to be Ness versus Snake. I just wanted to mention Apollo Kage because he can beat literally anyone, but I would expect Sonic to beat Siski. I would expect Tweak to beat Gak. The only time that Tweak has beaten Sonic was at Momocon with Sephiroth, and that was a very long time ago. Last time they played was also a long time ago at CEO, like not the most recent CEO, the last one. So I don't expect Tweak to take this set. I think I could be pleasantly surprised and he's cooked something up, but Sonics has been on an absolute tear as late. I mean, recently, he probably just passed Tweak on the rankings, and I would expect him to still beat him in tournament. Now, there are a lot of variables in the loser side of bracket, so we won't be spending as much time, but just so everyone remembers, Shootone is going to be Mutes for our sake because we have Shootone going over Mutes, we have Mutes going over Spargo. Light is going to be Debuzz because we have Debuzz over Mia, and we have Light over Debuzz. And to be honest, I think Debuzz is going to make top 8 because I think he beats Gak, I think he beats Ken, I think he beats Siski, I think he beats Ouch. I think he's favored in all of these matchups, and I would expect him to get in. For Mutes, it's a little bit more tricky because there's a lot of people that could make it here. You have Kurama, who's probably going to be favored over Chase. Noi could also make that upset. He's a crazy good player as well. But let's say that this is Kurama. For Big D versus Mars, heavy favor Mars. He's probably going to make it at this point in the bracket if he does lose to Oden because he is going to beat MVD. That's one of MVD's worst matchups, if not like his worst matchup. And Zero Suit destroys Ices. And Kurama versus Mars, literally no clue how that's going to go. But regardless, I'd probably favor Mutes in both those sets. Kurama, his entire thing is he is very, very deadly when he hits you, but it's backed behind his amazing neutral. He's some of the best spacing in the game, but the one who has the best spacing in the game, it's Mutes. And that's because he is playing the best spacing character in the game. It allows him to do that a lot better. But the fact that your main attribute is being done by your opponent a little bit better than you, I think is going to be to the detriment of Kurama, and I would expect Mutus to take that. And then if it does come down to Mars actually making the run, I would expect Mutus to take it just because the last time they played, which was granted a very long time ago, Mutus did take the set. Editing for Fleck here, I should mention that the only time that Kurama and Mutus have actually played, it did go into Kurama's favor, but to be fair, very competitive set, and I do not think that Mutus was playing his best at that day, so even though it is on paper in Kurama's favor, I'm still going to stay with my pick of Mutus. Next up, we got the tweak section of the bracket, and our biggest change here is going to be the fact that Mia is now Debuzz, and I think Mia has a very good chance to make it to at least tweak. He's probably going to beat Jackal. I mean, that's one of the few American players that he's actually played, and he has beaten him. Speaking of the few American players that he's played, Oden, who he's also beaten, and Skyjay, I would expect him to beat him as well, just because it is Game & Watch versus Cinnamon. Now, Tweak versus Mia, it's going to be an interesting one. Tweak has kind of a back and forth history with Meister. Sometimes he loses, sometimes he wins, sometimes it's Sephiroth, sometimes it's the Diddy Kong. I really have no idea how that's going to go. And on paper, I would probably favor Mia here just because he has been doing so incredible as late. But for America, I'm going to say that Tweak does get that upset over Mia and gets into the top 8 for the loser side of the bracket. And then finally, we're going to have Spargo in place of Mutes right here. Spargo versus Apollo Kage, I'd favor him there. Spargo versus Zomba, I would still favor Spargo, and I expect Aegis to come out of that matchup. And Spargo versus Riddles. Now, that is an absolute banger that we haven't seen in a very, very long time. I think the last time they played was that major upset, and it did go into Spargo's favor, so I would expect it to happen here. But Riddles is a player that is of the caliber to beat Spargo, but it'd be kind of crazy to see both Mia and Spargo battle this event before top 8. And here we have the top 8. We're just going to be talking about the projected top 8 here, though there is one more thing that I want to talk about after. Our first matchup, though, is going to be Spargo versus Mia, and I would heavily favor Spargo to take that set. He's won all their previous encounters, as well as Aegis doing very well in the matchup, so I'm going to say that Spargo takes that one. Then you have Aquila versus Sonics. Now, that's an interesting one. That is some of the best players in the world that have never played each other. Both of them are top 5. They have 0 sets between each other. I guess you can say that about Sonics and Mia as well, because he hasn't played too many Japanese players, to be honest. And I'm going to favor Sonics there. I think he's very good at the Steam matchup. I mean, Sonics versus DD at MomoCon was literally unwinnable for DD. He could not win that set, and believe me, he tried, and I don't think it's going to be the same thing with Aquila, but I would expect Sonics to take that. In the loser set of bracket, you're going to have Light versus Shootone. Now, this is a bit of a tricky one. I think Light has a chance to win this set. On paper, you're definitely going to favor Shootone. The only time they played recently was at Crown. It was Game 5, though. I think Aegis does fairly well versus Fox, so I'm going to say that Shootone would take that set. Then you're going to have Riddles versus Tweak. Now, this is a set that goes back and forth, like, literally on a dime. You do have Riddles winning the last encounter at Gonwell, so I'm going to say that Tweak wins the newest encounter, because they literally just trade sets back and forth. So then you would have Shootone versus Aquila in losers quarters, and I would favor Aquila there. Even though Shootone has been able to upset Aquila in the past, it usually does go to Aquila's favor. You'd have Mia versus Tweak. I already explained my reasonings earlier, but we're in the top 8 at this point, and NA has been getting farmed in these top 8s as of late, so there is no hopium that can save Tweak this time, and Mia is probably going to take that set. So for our top 4, we're going to have, shocker, Spargo versus Sonics, and Mia versus Aquila. I would definitely expect Aquila to take that. I would expect Spargo to take that set, even though Sonics and him have been trading sets recently. Again, I think Sonics versus Aquila is going to be a fairly one-sided match for Sonics. If Aquila is able to win it, it's probably going to be one of the most impressive wins he can get in Smash Ultimate, just because how good Sonics is at the matchup, as well as how amazing he is as a player. So I think Sonics is probably going to take that one, and our grand finals is going to be Spargo versus Sonics, again, like it has been for the past 2 tournaments. Y'all got to get used to it, because that's what it's going to be for a lot of events, and Spargo would likely take it. And even though we've already gone over the top 8, I still got to talk about my favorite to win the entire event, and that is going to be Light. As I said earlier on, I think he has a very good shot of making top 8 through the winner's side of the bracket, and even if he has to play Mia, which he won't, I still think that he has a chance versus Min. He's very good at the matchup. He's beaten Meister in the past. It's definitely a very hard one. It's going to be an uphill battle, but I think Light is good enough to be able to take it. And if Light top 8s this bracket through the winner's side, even if he gets Shutone, Spargo, Mutace, plays that he's all lost to previously, but granted, all of those sets were very close. The Mutace and Shutone sets, especially both of those go into Game 5. I think Light's going to be playing with enough momentum to be able to win it. For context, the last time that Light top 8 a bracket through the winner's side, at least at a major event, was going to be Level Up Expo, which he also won. I'm just saying. Now, in winner's finals, he's probably going to be playing against Sonics because I do have Sonics over Akala, and that record is very heavy in Light's favor. And even though Sonics did take a set at MomoCon, he's been playing the best he's ever played. He's been absolutely cooking people on paper and in practice. I'm still going to favor Light there. And I think if Light makes it to the grand finals, even if Sonics gets there, Shutone gets there, Spargo, Akala, literally anyone in the entire world, I think Light with 2 sets with momentum is good enough to win Super Smash Bros. He's done it in the past. I think he can do it again. And I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. The support has been absolutely unreal. Now, there is a lot of players attending this event. We obviously cannot go over all of them. But if there's a player that I left out and you want to know the run, please just let me know down below. And I'll be sure to tell you. And yeah, that's all I got to say. Support's been absolutely unreal. Thank you guys for everything. Be sure to sub, all that yada yada. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.